are coming to the end of these very inspiring sessions of this second Euro-African Forum. I just want to recall that we had the honor of having yesterday with us the President of Portugal, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, the President of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, that we also had here the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Portugal, Santos Silva, now through a video message, the United Nations Secretary General, António Guterres. We also had the Director General of the International Organization of Migration, António Vitorino. We had the former President of the Republic, and in fact the first honorary President of this Conselho, the Diáspora, Professor Cavaco Silva. He joined us for lunch yesterday. And just now we heard also in a panel the State Secretary for Tourism from Portugal, Mrs. Ana Mendes Godinho. But for me, what was very interesting about this meeting today and yesterday was the blend of people. As one of the participants in one of the panels said, she usually is not invited for these kind of platforms. We not only had people from the governments, officials, and from international organizations. By the way, we also had a Director General from the European Commission and a Director for the European Investment Bank. Not only we had these officials, but we had people from NGOs, from startups. We have real entrepreneurs. We have people from business, people from the philanthropic field. We had people from the civil society. We have people from culture and the arts. We had many women, including panel women only. We had young people from several generations. And I think this is what makes this kind of event special. Our idea is to put people together. The idea is the network, like the network for the diaspora. And I can confirm to you that during this meeting, we have received the confirmation that at least 2 African countries are going to create diasporas, councils like the one we have here in Portugal. Because we believe this is a way of having what we can call soft power. Not only have the traditional diplomacy, not only have the governments, but also have these networks of people that by nature are very global and international minded. Of course, they love their countries, but they are open to others. And I think this idea of putting together these different diasporas, the Portuguese diaspora, but Africa diasporas or others, is indeed one that it is important. Because it can build on this diversity and it can build on the connection between people. Today we had, but I'm not going to summarize, we just heard them, so it will be, I think, useless for me to repeat. But we had 2 very interesting panels, one on Africa as a new frontier for impact investment and innovation. And I really believe that if there is a sector that is growing now in the financial world, is this sector of investments with some social or even green characteristics. There is a growing market for everything that has to do with ESG, so environment, social and governance issues. And I personally believe that Africa can be a natural partner for this. Because when European or, let's say, Western companies try to show their commitment also to these values, and today this is a matter of survival for these companies. I think that any, let's say, forward-looking, enlightened entrepreneur, at least the biggest corporations today in the world, they have a program for ESG. And that opens a lot of opportunities for Africa, because in Africa we can hopefully see more quickly the impact of these investments that are socially or environmental or in terms of responsible governance oriented. So everything that has to do with social bonds, with green bonds, with these social impact bonds, I think there is, besides the philanthropic nature of it, there is here a market that is growing. And I think that's an area where we should invest more, because as many of the participants in our panels today and yesterday mentioned, Africa needs investment. Africa needs investment, and there is here a great set of opportunities for financial innovation. Some of these issues are quite technical, quite difficult, but because we know that sometimes there are a lot of barriers, including in some corporations in Europe and the United States, in terms of compliance. So we have to find new ways of being able to attract investment, long-term investment, to Africa, and I think today we have discussed here some interesting options. Then we had also an interesting panel about heritage, culture, and tourism. And in fact, tourism is precisely one of those areas where we can put together two kind of experience of know-hows that are very different. One is business, I mean just management, how to organize, let's say, the growth of our economy for employment through investment in what is a very important sector of our economies. And our state secretary has shown how important tourism is for Portuguese economy. It's really a great success story, the story of Portuguese tourism. She also highlighted, and that was interesting, that Portugal and Africa can be latecomers to this tourism, let's say, renaissance, and this is also an opportunity for Africa and also for joint ventures between Europe and Africa. I believe Africa also has a great potential in terms of tourism. There are some issues to be settled. In fact, the security issue is an issue, but we saw that there is a great potential in this sector. But tourism is not just an economic activity in the traditional sense. It's also about culture. It's also about arts. It's also about creativity. So I think we are here touching also the borders of a new economy where we need to put more resources and also more new thinking. At least I also believe it was important to see that here we have given up on the idea of Afro-pessimism. On the contrary, I saw positive messages about opportunities that exist in this sector of tourism, heritage, I mean, everything that is linked with the so-called hospitality. And I like the word hospitality, because in fact today we are seeing namely about the migrants, as we have discussed yesterday, about foreigners. There is, in fact, a broad cultural struggle going on. Hospitality or hostility? Do we see the foreigners as an enemy, the hostes, as we said in Latin, or do we see a foreigner as a friend? Can we or not be more inclusive? This was, in fact, a topic all over our sessions about the issue of equals, partnership of equals and sharing values. So the basic attitude, the basic broad cultural attitude we have towards others, is it an attitude of hospitality and inclusion or an attitude of rejection and hostility? I think we are here and we have reaffirmed once again the values of hospitality and inclusion. I think these sessions have shown a lot of goodwill, a lot of passion, and I would like to underline this word passion. For some of us, the issue of Africa is a matter of passion. If I may make a personal remark, I discovered this issue when I was 31 years old. I was invited to join the government, precisely in charge of development cooperation, foreign affairs and development cooperation. The prime minister then, it was President Cavaco Silva that you met yesterday, invited me, and I was quite surprised because I told him, but I have never been in Africa in my life. Why are you asking me to deal with Angola, Mozambique, and so on? And he says, precisely because we have never been there. Because I want someone who has no prejudice against Africa, does not look at Africa through the, let's say, the lens of colonialism or also anti-colonialism. You go there with a fresh mind. And afterwards, I was so excited to discover Africa, namely when I was the mediator for the peace, namely in Angola, the terrible war that was going on, and the peace agreements that were made not far from here where we are today, and also our support to Mozambique and other processes. So I think many of us, when in Europe, when we speak about Africa, we speak with some passion. I love Africa. I fell in love with Africa. The creativity of the people, the resilience of the people, the courage, the great humor we find in Africans. So I think Africa is indeed something that has a potential still to explore, and part of us is motivated to Africa by this passion. But let's be also frank and honest. In terms of the economy, there are, besides passion, there are also the interests. And Africa has a very dynamic demographics. Africa will be one of the biggest markets in the world. Yesterday, I gave you the figures about the relationship between Europe and Africa. It's extremely important, but I think it will be much more important in the future. In fact, when you look today at Asia, we see that many of those economies are coming to what we call the level of maturity. Yes, they are going to continue to grow, but their potential growth is not so big as it was, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago. I mean, it's very unlikely that China will come back to growth of 2 digits. So they are going to continue to grow, but not at the same pace Africa has a potential to grow at 2 digits. The market of Africa is going to be one of the most important markets in the world. So I think in this issue, we can at the same time have the passion for those who want to share that passion, but also to try to align with our interests, the long-term interests, and make them compatible in terms of the European interests that exist, but also basically the interest of development and growth and jobs for Africa. And one point when I saw that was coming in almost all panels, just now in the panel of tourism, is the issue of education. Education and skills. It was said by some of the entrepreneurs, what we need more is skills. And so if there is an area I think we should highlight and be critically important is what can we do together, Africa and Europe, in terms of education and skills. And in Europe, we have a lot of know-how in many of these areas. We can share this know-how. I mean, some people, in fact, people that will be happy to do it, I would say almost for free, because we can share this, and we can, at the same time that we are fulfilling ourselves, we are also helping others. So the issue of education and skills and what Europe can bring in terms of support the ideas of Africans and the dynamism of Africans is really important. And I have been in more than 30 countries in Africa. And that's why I do not share the pessimism that I see very often. If you want to see, for instance, what is dynamism, you go to one of those small markets in Western Africa, for instance. What they lack very often is this dimension, this critical mass. But they have, in Africa, they have the resources, the characteristics to be very successful economies. And I think that Europe will also benefit from being partners in equal terms with Africa. I have now to conclude with some words of thanks, because as you know, to organize such an event, it requires a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of time. I like to say on behalf of the conference and also on behalf of the Conselho de Diáspora, to say my very sincere thanks to Cascais municipality, Município de Cascais. It was represented here as well by the mayor and the vice mayor, to Nova SBE, represented here by the director, Daniel Traça. This is probably the most beautiful campus in the world, I think. I don't know how these students can work when they have the temptation of surf all the time. But it's not only a great campus, it's one of the best business schools in Portugal and in the world, in fact, if you look at the rankings of the business schools. So it's, we are very proud and very happy that now we can organize this event here in Nova SBE. I'd like to thank all the sponsors. There are so many, from Turismo de Portugal to public and private entities that I cannot now detail them, but my very warm words of thanks to them. Once again, a word of thanks to our honorary president, is the President of the Republic, and our vice honorary president is the Foreign Minister of Portugal. And now it's true that we are a partnership of equals, but let's be frank, we are all equals, but not everybody has worked the same. Some have worked much more to make this possible. That's why I want to say my very sincere muito obrigado to Philippe Botton, the director of the Conselho de Diáspora. Without him and his enthusiasm, that will not be possible. To Silvia Rodrigues, where she is. She's somewhere. Oh, no, she's there. Silvia, can you stand up a moment? She was organizing everything. To Silvia and her team, all the young team, from the hostesses to the interpreters to the producer, all this team that organized, I would like to say to them a very, very big obrigado. And of course, to all of you that came and to were sharing your experiences. Because at the end, this is about people. This is about people. This is not just about the governments or about the structures or about the systems, about people. Very often, when I go all over the world now in my, let's say, different, let's say, capacities, I make conferences, and very often, namely young people, they ask me, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen to globalization? What's going to happen to trade? What is going to happen to this and that? And my answer is almost always the same. It depends. It depends. It depends on you. So nothing is written in advance. It depends on what we do. And even if it's a small contribution, I think we can make a difference. And I think during these 2 days here, we have made a difference in this beautiful place of Cascais, in this beautiful country that is Portugal. Yes, I'm against nationalism, but I'm a little bit patriotic. And you know, we made that difference that it was a great French writer who said, patriotism is to love what belongs to us. Nationalism is to hate what belongs to others. I think we can be, and we have seen during 2 days at the same time that we can be patriotic, we can love our community of reference, but at the same time we have to show our interest and commitment to the rest of mankind, to others, be it in Europe, to be in Africa, and I think naturally Europe and Africa can be very good, equal, and respectful partners. I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you all the best, and I hope to see you next year here in Cascais, in Portugal. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.